Hi, it's Therese and I'm here for Penny Black and it's time to gimme 5. So that means 5 same but different cards, and today I thought I'd focus on using this poetic stamp, and this is a beautiful leaf stamp that has like a real sort of an intricate design, and I'm going to use it a little bit differently today. I thought it'd be fun to challenge myself to create my own design paper, so I decided to use an A4 sheet of cardstock and stamp out the image multiple times in 3 different bright colours that I thought would work really well together, and then make 5 cards using that 1 sheet of cardstock. So when I'm stamping out my own design paper, sort of background, anything like this, I always make sure to stamp some of the images off the edge of the piece of cardstock, and that way it looks like it was meant to be like that. The other thing I'm having to do here is clean my stamp really well in between the colors, and I'm rotating the colors, so I'm trying not to put 2 colors that are the same right beside each other. I'm also rotating the stamp as I'm stamping. I've probably added a little too much color to this design in some places because I found that I lost a little bit of the the real fine pattern that's in this stamp. But it didn't really matter because I was more going for not such a realistic thing. I was actually just going for the pattern and that I was creating to make my cards with. And I think these colors look so pretty together. I always love an orange, a hot pink and a bright orange together, but adding that sort of aquamarine blue just took it to the next level. So that's my finished cardstock. So let's get started on the cards. So I haven't got any real plan in mind other than knowing some of the stamps that I want to use and some of the patterns. So I thought I'd just start out by cutting down some of the pieces on this panel, and when I was looking at it I thought, oh, this would look really cool if I did some fussy cutting around the edge. So really just having fun and making lots of cards. I really enjoyed putting all these cards together, and they came together really easily too, which is not normal for me. So I really do need to start making some cards now. I've decided to use this Charlotte image as a line art. They're a large stamp, so there's a few different girls in this series, and they look so beautiful coloured in, but I thought she'd be great as line art on top of the design paper that I've created. So I did have to use my Misty. Now I've got a top fold card and I'm adding a black piece of cardstock to the front of that. And I also want to pop up the panel that I have Charlotte stamped on, and to do that I'm just using up pieces of scrap fun foam, and I'm going a bit overboard on my ATG just in case you hadn't noticed. My sentiment is also die cut for some black cardstock, and this one's from a really nice set of dies which is called Awesome, and I'm just using my matte medium to add some liquid glue to the back of that, and then I can just set that in place. I did kind of toy with the idea of adding some enamel dots or sequins to this design, but in the end simplicity won out, and that's the first card all done. And now it's time to start my second design. This is actually some textured black cardstock, and there's another die set I've brought out. This is an older set called On Safari, and I've just die cut an elephant from this and decided to cover the front of this card base as well. And this is in just some kind of like a pool aquamarine kind of colour, which is very similar to the ink that I've used. I've popped the panel up with some fun foam already, added lots of ATG adhesive, and just to work out where I needed the adhesive I just held the panel beside it. That's why I had it sitting there like that. And I have a sentiment that I had made for another project but didn't use, and I thought this would be perfect to have an elephant and this Dream Big, which is actually from the Dream Big die set, has a couple of different sentiments in it, and it's in some glittery black cardstock. Isn't that cool? And I thought it worked really, really well with the elephant as well. And I'm just using some dotted adhesive to adhere the elephant directly to the front panel. And that's card number 2. Really simple and a kind of fun design, I think, too. Now we're on to card number 3. So this die is called Feline, and it's actually a framed die, and I didn't even bother die cutting the whole frame out. I just cut the cats because that's what I knew I wanted to use. So initially I was kind of thinking of just putting one of the cats or all of the cats. I wasn't really sure, but in the end I decided to go with 3, and I've just cut them out with a pair of scissors. I did die cut this a second time with some fun foam, and then I'm just going to adhere my cats in place and set that aside to dry for a couple of minutes. I just wanted to pop them up, and they're such an intricate design. I knew it would be really difficult to do with cutting up bits of foam tape. I didn't want to layer up lots of cardstock to do that either. That just sounds like hard work. My sentiment, I'm using 2 sets here. This one's from B, which, not as in the bumblebee, as in BE. it's kind of a set that goes with these girls, the big girls, the line art girls that were released. And I thought it'd be fun to use these cats and say, "You're classy." The "your" came, I just partially stamped that. That was, well, selectively stamped it. And that was from a set called Snippets. You might have heard of it. If you've ever seen me here before, you would have heard of it. I use it all the time. And then I've just popped the whole panel again on some fun foam and attaching it to the front of my top fold card. I am going to use some liquid glue again to adhere these cats in place, and this is like a matte liquid glue. It doesn't leave any shiny residue, so if I do sort of slip when I'm sitting it down, I know you're not really going to see the glue if it dries matte, as opposed to shiny. And speaking of shiny, I have a black. This is the Onyx black. It's like a glitter pen, so I can just, I didn't know whether to add the sparkle or not, and it is really subtle, but you can see it in real life. And I thought classy cats, won't hurt them to have a bit of shimmer. And I think these cats are so beautiful. I love the shape of them. And that's card number 3. So my next card is probably the one you can see the least of the design that I created in the background. I have, this is a thank you die, and it's from the thank you squares. There's actually one of those dies that cut out, it's like a negative space die. So what it does is it cuts out the panel saying thank you within a piece of cardstock. So I've got some nice bright orange cardstock, and I've cut it to fit as a panel on the front of my card, added some liquid glue to the die cut, added some ATG around the edge of the die cut, and then I can just adhere it onto some black fun foam, which I've already die cut the same die from within. So I did have to wait for this to dry before I could remove the inner portion of this die cut. Otherwise, because it's such an intricate die cut, it wouldn't have held in place. Then to attach this to my design paper, I've used my ATG gun again, as well as some liquid glue, because I do want this to sit nice and flat, and the glue, I know, will just hold that in place really strongly. And then I was sort of just choosing, like I moved it around and worked out exactly what portion of the design paper I wanted to show through the window. And of course I misjudged the edge a bit and just had to trim that away. No one's ever going to see the back of this, because I've added more ATG and I'm going to be able to adhere this to the front of my card. So this is probably one of the most simple designs, but I do think that does pack a punch. That's a real sweet little die, and so many possibilities too. That's it for card number 4. And we're on to the final card now, and this one's going to be very easy because a lot of the hard work is already done here. I'm starting off by working on my sentiment, and I'm doing some white heat embossing on some black cardstock, and that's because I want this sentiment to stand out. This is from the Kind Words stamp set. It's an older stamp set, and what I like about these sentiments is if you cut them out, they make a real bold sort of statement because they've got the lines within the sentiment. And of course, I was just going to show you here, I didn't actually prep my paper properly, so I did actually come in with my craft knife and scrape away the embossing powder. It's easier to remove embossing powder before you heat it, just saying. So this is the panel that I'd already fussy cut. I've just added some fun foam behind that, and then all that's left to do is to pop up my sentiment, and I'm using some black double-sided foam tape for that. And that's my final card finished. How easy was that? So thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the Penny Black YouTube channel. You can also connect with Penny Black at Facebook and Instagram, as well as check out their blog and website where you'll find heaps of inspiration. I'm going to link all of these below, as well as a direct link to my blog post, which will give you a full list of the supplies that I've used. I look forward to seeing you for the next episode of Give Me 5. Bye!